Disney just doesn't get it, do they? So I want to discuss this article and kind of what's been going on and give my thoughts, my opinion on the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs live action remake and this situation going on with Rachel Zegler, who is the star of the movie, set to play Snow White in the movie. Now, before we go any further with this, I want to get this out of the way early. I am not supporting live action remakes of classic Disney films. If you've been watching my channel, you know that I don't support them. It has nothing to do with politics or wokeness or any of that necessarily. I don't support them because I feel they are bastardized versions of the originals. They're not as good as the originals. I tried watching a couple of them years ago. Maleficent was just a mess to me. I hated that movie, and it just shows like supporting these movies is basically supporting the absolute lack of creativity that Disney has, as well as supporting the fact that this company is just like, why do you want to watch a live action version of an animated classic if you watch the classic? It's on Disney Plus. You understand what I'm saying? And Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first theatrical animated Disney classic back in 1937. There's no reason to remake it except for it being a cheap cash grab, and that's what this is. I know some of y'all have daughters and you take them to go see these movies. I understand that. Maybe it's a bonding moment for you and your kids, but for me, I don't have any daughters, so it's just not something I'm going to do. Maybe if someday I get a daughter, I'll do it, but I probably won't because I don't want my daughter watching this crap. I'd rather her watch the real movie. So what's going on here is Rachel Zegler's been talking about how she wanted to make changes to the Snow White character because what they're doing with these movies is they're not just remaking them just scene by scene. They're adding stuff and changing things. The first time I noticed this was with Maleficent. They took the entire Sleeping Beauty storyline and turned it upside down. She's over here. Her comments are somewhere to the effect of, we don't need to have a Prince Charming. I don't need a man. It's not 1930s anymore and all this stuff. And, okay, this is what I think. My honest opinion. If you are one of those women that feels this way, that you don't need a man, you think that this is outdated and stuff like that, and you want to live your life like that, fine. You have freedom to live your life like that. I'm not going to be one of those guys that is trying to tell chicks not to do that. One thing I will say, though, is when you're talking about remaking an animated classic, making changes that drastic to me is a big mistake because you're going to alienate the audience that loves the Disney movies. The Snow White Disney movie is already a major change from the actual original Snow White story, the actual fairy tale. Because they have to, Disneyfy it. They have to make it positive. But now they're trying to Disneyfy it again. It says here, in a social bite that has gone viral, Zegler suggested scenes featuring her co-star Andrew Burnap, who plays Prince Charming, could be cut from the film. In another soundbite that has become the center of discourse, Zegler described her version of Snow White as a leader who doesn't need a prince to save her. But that's not the story of Snow White. And unfortunately, what they have to understand is, I understand that some people are into this neo-feminist stuff. Some people feel empowered or whatever the case is. But there's also people in the world that like chivalry. They like princes and princesses. They like fairy tales. They like sort of damsel in distresses. And some folks don't like that. I have people who I used to talk to who are very against anything like that. And it's so weird to me because these fairy tales are harmless. These Disney movies are harmless. If you put out the original Snow White, it's not... Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs 1937 is not an anti-men or an anti-woman. I'm sorry. That movie is not like an anti-woman, pro-male patriarchal film. That's not what that movie's even about. It's about a woman who makes friends with dwarves and ends up getting poisoned by a witch. Spoiler alert for a movie that came out almost 100 years ago, bro. It's like 80-something, 90 years ago. But the idea that they're going to, update these movies for the modern time, it's just such a lazy and annoying. It's more annoying to me. It's annoying to me. So it says here, she also told an interviewer that she saw the original film only once before she was cast because she found the film scary as a child. Okay, so what a stupid asshole. So because you found, I'm sorry, but this is so stupid. Because you found the movie scary as a child, as an adult, you can't be a fucking professional and watch the source material. Granted, it's not the original source material. It's the Disney-fied source material, but this movie's based on that. So you can't make time to watch the original to understand the character. Well, that movie scared me as a kid, and I'm too traumatized. I can't watch it now. Listen, when I was a kid, I used to be terrified of watching Bambi. Because Bambi, the scene where Bambi's mom gets killed used to mess with me as a kid. I hated that scene. That movie scared me. Because I didn't like the idea of my mom getting killed or Bambi's mom getting killed by a hunter. But when I turned teenager, I watched the movie again and I was fine with it because I grew up. I was no longer afraid of it. That's got to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard an actor say. Like, reading that right there, obviously Disney won't do this, but if I was an executive, I would read that and be like, okay, let's find someone else. Honestly. On TikTok, some users said they think that in an effort to make Snow White more feminist, Zegler inadvertently assigned anti-feminist sentiment on the character. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not, the movie's not anti-feminist, the original Snow White. This is so dumb. Others used the viral discourse to bash Zegler, a Latina actor who already faced racist backlash to her casting in a live-action remake. I mean, her being Hispanic and Latina, I don't think that should even matter, but correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Snow White supposed to be Caucasian? Not necessarily because her name is Snow White, but if they were really trying to, follow the logic, she would be Caucasian, but this is one of those cases where Disney wants to play the political game and take a character that's supposed to be Caucasian and change their ethnicity to appeal to Latin audiences. Well, guess what? I'm Hispanic, and I had a lot of friends of mine, both boys and girls, as kids that were Hispanic, and I promise you, I will put money on it. As a legitimate Latino from Cuba, I will put money on it. Not I'll put money on it. I mean, this actually happened. I will promise you, on my word, not a single fucking person from my childhood said, I wish Snow White was Hispanic so I can relate to her better. That's not how this works. Making a character Hispanic so you can relate, that's not how it works. We don't care. Latin people don't care. We don't need the actress to be Latina for us to feel better about ourselves. It's a damn fairy tale movie. Who cares? It's such a bizarre mentality. And people oftentimes say go woke, go broke, but that's not necessarily true because these movies still make money. And Disney ain't going broke. I understand what they mean by that, but it's just not the case. So it says here, the clips that have been shared social media show tightly edited segments of Zegler interviews, which don't always include all of the thought about the film. Now, that is true. If you're taking clips out of context to make her look bad, that's slimy garbage. I don't agree with that. In an interview with Variety in September at the Disney Fan Club's D23 Expo, where fans got a first glimpse of the new Snow White, Zegler says she cried and was overwhelmed when she saw herself in the screen as Snow White. Well, that's nice. Hey, I saw myself on the screen as a character that I can only watch once and I'm too scared of the cartoon. She then praised crew members who helped make the film possible. I mean, that's nice. But on social media, people zeroed in on her response to being asked about bringing a modern edge to the story of Snow White. I mean, it's no longer 1937, Zegler said. We absolutely wrote a Snow White that she's not going to be saved by the prince and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's going to be dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be and that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, brave, fair, brave, and true. But you're changing the character. Another interview at the D23 Expo was also scrutinized on social media. In the soundbite, Zegler told Extra TV that there's a big focus on Snow White's love story in the original film with a guy who literally stalks her. Oh my God, kill me. She called that part of the story weird and said they didn't do that this time. I like how basic masculine acts have now been turned into creepy and stalkerish. You know that somebody told me if you maintain eye contact with a woman on a date, you're creepy? Even though you're supposed to maintain eye contact. You want us to look at your titties instead? Like, it's so obnoxious, this... It's gone too far, it really has. And unfortunately, nothing can be done about it because this bastardization of classic movies is not going to stop as long as people keep going to see them. I don't know what to tell you, man. I just think this was very dumb of her to say. And honestly, I feel like when it comes to these movies, the actors and directors at Disney need to not do interviews. Just don't do them. Or at least keep the answers very vague or have like a social media coach because this stuff gets totally overblown. Anyways, y'all, those are my thoughts. Take care. See you later.